Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Karen Bass of California. Congresswoman, appreciate you joining me. First off,
Thanks.
After seeing the Republican Obamacare repeal go down in flames, how much of a boost does this give to members on your side of the aisle?
Well, I think it does give a boost to members, but it also gives a boost to all of the activists that were around the country that rallied in support of Obamacare. And so I think that it's definitely been a lot of energy, and people are excited about tackling the next battle. When I think of tax reform and the way Trump is being very flippant about that, I think he's going to run into the same brick wall that he's run into with health care reform.
Well, and one of the people that are excited about the Democratic victory, Bernie Sanders. Let's take a listen to him.
We managed, as a result of the efforts of millions of people who stood up and fought back, we defeated a disastrous health care proposal.
So Karen, Lindsey Graham earlier today saying we need to work together on this health care bill in order to move it, in order to get it passed.
Well, you know,
are the Democrats willing to do that?
Well, you know, of course we need to work together. You know, I'm in my 7th year in Congress now, and when I very first came in, the whole notion was repeal and replace. No one ever thought that the Affordable Care Act was perfect. You never do a massive piece of legislation like this and not spend 5 to 10 years, you know, fixing it or changing it. But the problem was, if your stance as the Republicans was repeal, they were never interested in doing anything to improve the Affordable Care Act. So I believe the Democrats have always been ready, but you cannot come to the table and say, let's start by repealing it, and then we're going to replace it. If you want to talk about improving health care, expanding health care, helping those states that did not extend Medicaid so that there's more coverage, if you want to start there, I know Democrats would be ready, and always have been.
So Karen, what changes are the Dems willing to make, and why not come to the table with that? Start the negotiations, start it off on the right foot.
Well, again, it's very hard to negotiate with the Republicans when their stance is repeal. Repeal says you don't even want to look at it. You just want to throw it away. And I will tell you, if they had moved forward with this bill, it was just going to do tremendous harm to the country, and especially to the base of voters that voted for the president. People were going to be denied basic access to care, and I'm glad that they came to that realization and pulled it back.
Want to play one of your Republican colleagues that sits on the Appropriations Committee, Charlie Dent. Take a listen.
Sure.
We could find areas of agreement to improve this system. And again, no matter what we do, we have to do it on a bipartisan basis, because to get a bill through the Senate is going to require 60 votes. So we'll need at least 8 Democrat votes there, but we also need to build a coalition in the House. If we have someone on the hard right who can't get the yes on anything, well, then of course we need to have Democrats help us get to 218 votes. It's that simple.
Congressman, are Republicans reaching out to you on this? Have they?
Absolutely not. But I think Representative Dent is an example of a Republican who I would expect to reach out, because he definitely has not been a part of the hardliners that said repeal. If you come to the table and say, let's all sit down and talk about how we can improve the Health Care Reform Act, let's talk about how we can help those states that haven't expanded Medicaid actually do that. If we can look at other issues like that, I know the Democrats would be willing and ready, but again, I have to say, Republicans come to the table with repeal. Hopefully, after this fiasco, they will drop that demand and come to the table to help the American people.
I want to switch gears here a little bit. The Congressional Black Caucus met this week with President Trump. Chairman Cedric Richmond described it as a candid discussion, but some, they've criticized it as providing a photo op for the president without getting anything concrete. How would you describe that meeting, Congresswoman?
Well, I definitely would not describe it as a photo op. In fact, there were no formal photos taken. But let me just say that as a member of the Congressional Black Caucus Executive Committee, when we went in to talk to the president, our chairman began with an overview that told the president, you have to stop talking about the African-American community the way that you do. You also have to stop saying, what do we have to lose? The theme of our meeting was, we actually have a lot to lose, and frankly, in the first 60 days of your administration, we've already lost a lot. One of the first things that happened was for the federal government to pull out of the voting rights lawsuit in Texas, rolling back the consent decrees to look at police departments that were troubled in Baltimore and in Chicago. Those were two things that the administration did even before the secretaries of those departments were confirmed. And so we believe...
Congresswoman,
yes.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but
okay.
you bring up stop talking, start doing. Did he give you those assurances in this meeting?
Well, I don't think he gave us the assurances, but what he did say and what we asked for specifically was we wanted an ongoing dialogue with several members of his cabinet. Now, we presented him with a document. It was over 100 pages. Some of it was a little bit about African-American history, since we know that he needs to understand a little bit about African-American history, but it was also filled with more than 50 pages of solutions, very specific pieces of legislation. We asked him to review the document and to get back to us, and I'm hoping that he will look for ways that we can come together. One area we did talk about was transportation and infrastructure. We told him that we would be very much interested in that, but if there is going to be major legislation on infrastructure, we want to make sure that African Americans can have access to those jobs and also to the small business contracts associated with those jobs.
Right, it's not just about job creation, it's about access to those jobs, which is a very important thing to bring up. Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, thank you. All right, up next,